everybody, and welcome to the Horror Hangout, where we talk about the best and worst and newest and latest and greatest horror movies of all time. My name is Andy Conduit-Turner, and I'm joined today by a very special guest for a little interview. He is a writer, director of various films, including Tragedy Girls, a section of VHS 1999, Patchwork, and his brand new movie, It's a Wonderful Knife, this holiday slasher movie this year. I'm here with Tyler MacIntyre. Tyler, hello.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Oh no, thanks for making some time for us. I know you're in demand, and Christmas is going to come at us fast, right? So yeah, thanks for spending a bit
Fast,
of time.
yeah. It's always here before you know it.
Um, Great. Well, I want to make sure we make the most of your time. So before we dive into the film itself, let's delve into the past a little bit and learn a little bit about you as a filmmaker. So how did genre cinema find you, or how did you find it?
Well, I grew up with a brother who really loved horror movies, and so he would always rent a lot of movies that were far too adult for me. But as a result, I would always have, because he was older, he would always get his way. We'd always have to watch. I'd rent something that was like a lighthearted comedy, an airplane, and then he'd be like, yeah, but you gotta sit through Ghoulies first or something, and it became a bit of motif where I gradually became more and more obsessed with horror movies, and we started to kind of watch through all of the entire horror section in our small town video store. And then by the time I got a little older and I started kind of making movies in the backyard, a lot of them had these very specific genre bents and often kind of some scary content. And then a lot of the very early ones were kind of horror films, and so then I've always kind of loved the genre. And when I finished film school, I started working for Roger Corman, and he kind of makes this whole living doing films that are in and around genre, specifically horror, a lot of the time. And so a lot of my kind of scripts that I worked on started to kind of take that shape, because it seemed like a pretty straightforward path to make a first project, because horror is a really fun space. Like you can rely on certain tropes and things like that, but you don't require a huge cast to get a movie together. And then that's really where Patchwork kind of came from. I made a short film that was like a little female Frankenstein story that was 2 minutes long, and then people really responded to it, and so we expanded it into a feature, and then we're able to find a little bit of financing for it, and then that started to make the festival rounds and led to me getting the opportunity to make Tragedy Girls, and then kind of on and on it went from there. But it all kind of grew out of a love for horror.
Yeah, and so your brother has a lot to either thank or answer for, right? So for getting you
Yeah,
into that
definitely
space.
answer for but he hasn't seen this movie yet, so we'll see what he thinks.
Oh, well, I hope it's a very positive one. But speaking of the movie in question, we're here to talk today about It's a Wonderful Knife. So, little read in for anyone who hasn't heard of it already. After saving her town from a psychotic killer, Winnie Carruthers' life is less than wonderful when she wishes she'd never been born. She finds herself in a nightmare, parallel universe where without her, she finds out things could have been much, much worse. Tyler, I don't mind telling you, this hit my watch list before we heard about it from a podcast and promotion point of view. The title alone was enough for me to go tick. That's going on the watch list. And then we saw the trailer that dropped a few weeks back now. I messaged my friends. We have a tradition of meeting between Halloween and Christmas because we enjoy both of those holidays together. And I immediately shot it to them. We intend to go and see this in cinemas in over the festive period together as a group, because this is a great kind of movie for this type of thing. So where did we begin with this one? Where did it come from?
Well, yeah. So Michael Kennedy had kind of written it as a spec script, and then he had fired it over to the Divide and Conquer guys, Adam and Greg. And so, like, I've been looking for something to do with both Michael and with Adam and Greg. And I also knew Seth Kaplan, who is a kind of the lead producer on this. And so I was sort of on their radar as somebody who had done a slasher movie, but like might be able to kind of bring some kind of perspective to it. And so we met, and like when I'm considering things to direct that I haven't written, because my previous features are all things that I also kind of wrote or co-wrote, and so I'm always kind of on the lookout for things that have a bit of a different perspective, or things that I wouldn't normally write. And what I really loved about It's a Wonderful Knife was the fact that it had a very pure kind of message to it. It had a really kind of uplifting vibe to it, and it had a sincerity to it that I hadn't really tried to do before. And so that was very appealing to me. It was kind of trying to make something that is, a scary, fun roller coaster of a movie, but then has like a heart of gold. And that was, an interesting challenge for me.
And that was something that, certainly watching the movie as I did in preparing to come and talk with you today, something I really took away that kind of differentiates it from a lot of the Christmas horror movies that we see, right? I think we're quite used to at this point seeing genre horror movies, and, to great success, basically being a slasher that has Christmas wrapping around it, that is Christmas paper. You have wonderful movies, some of my favorites like Jack Frost, which, have those elements to them.
Love Jack Frost.
Yeah, big fan. But seeing this, and I really did enjoy, exactly as you put it, the kind of heart and the core message that you get from a Christmas movie, the relationships between characters, kind of exactly, the heart that comes into it, really made this a little different for me. I think people are going to respond to it really well.
Yeah, it's been interesting kind of seeing it with an audience, because you always kind of make a movie, really just listening to your the people that you're working with, and trying to get a sense of like, well, people get this, and so it's always fun to, once you kind of, because you're almost too close to it, and then once you kind of send it out into the world and kind of see it in front of an audience, it's always interesting to me. That's the most interesting part, is seeing how people connect to it. And so fortunately for this, like, the movie is fairly well-meaning, and I think a lot of people are kind of craving that type of emotion that's like really not trying to, like, it's not trying to spread a toxic messages. It has some hopefulness to it, and I think it's it's a good time for that.
Yeah, definitely something we could use a little more of, certainly in our entertainment, if not real life right now. So you spoke about the people you worked with. How did you come to the cast for this one? Because it's a absolutely stellar one.
Yeah, I mean, the cast is very carefully assembled, but that said, we got very lucky, like it's a since we shot in Vancouver, Canada, we had to kind of look a bit at some like local people, but we were able to bring up some of the kind of leader roles and cast kind of a wider net. But we already had like Jane Widdop came on very early, and they play Winnie Carruthers, who's like the lead, and it's really kind of their first kind of bigger like starring role, and they have a lot of work to do, a lot of pressure, like they're only 20 years old, like it's a very difficult task to ask or like get somebody to carry, because they have to monitor like the whole like plot and arc of the movie, and like where you are, because you shoot everything out of order, and they have to really have a good beat on like where the audience is supposed to be with them. And we also have these kind of supernatural things going on. They did a lot of their own stunts, and and it's a lot to ask of somebody, and I think they really stepped up to it, especially in a very packed schedule. And so it was a really good, really fun to kind of collaborate with them. And then we found kind of a bit of the kind of second lead. Bernie was probably our most difficult part to cast. We cast like quite a wide net. Like, I watched like hundreds of auditions for that, and met with a bunch of people, and then ended up going with Jess McLeod, who did a really great job as Bernie, and had the right type of eccentricity, but also the kind of the heart with it. And seeing them together, like that relationship really took a whole different turn. And then we kind of sort of pushed towards that, and they both in turn took a lot of ownership over their roles, and over kind of making the film their own. And then that kind of chemistry, I think, led to what I think is like the most special thing about the film. And then filling out the cast with like Joel McHale, who's obviously like a big like a heavyweight comedian, and he has a lot of he's a very like kind of legendary performer, and we wanted to kind of play him a bit against type, he's not really a Hallmark dad, like he's just a bit too edgy for that. And I like the idea of putting him in that space, and then seeing how that works, and then also letting him show some colors that he doesn't normally do. And he's a very amazing dramatic actor, and so we wanted to kind of slow play him a little bit and use him in some different kind of ways. And he was really there for that. He really supported the weirdness of the movie and set a great tone professionally for especially like our younger cast. And he really kind of gave it his all, and that, I think, helped kind of showing people that they could really get invested in this. And then and Justin, like he was a big part of it. He is a kind of outlandish villain, and he's making some big choices, and he has kind of a nice guy assumption about him, and I like the idea of playing him as like this big outlandish villain, and coming off of Barbarian, and like I'm a big fan of him in like Drag Me to Hell and Tusk and like a lot of other kind of horror turns. And I think with a Christmas movie you can go a bit crazy with the villain.
Yeah.
And so we had a lot of fun kind of skewering those kind of baby boomer sort of industrialist characters, but we knew we couldn't go too far with it because we wanted to still make sense within the realm of the movie, and it was about kind of threading that needle, because Justin has like a lot of ideas and is a very fun person to collaborate, and it's easy to get kind of those horses run away pretty quickly, and we just had to be kind of honest with ourselves about what didn't work, and he was very responsive to that, and so it was fun to shape that. And then and then the rest of the cast we just got pretty lucky with. We we ended up with Katie Isabelle from Ginger Snaps.
Yeah,
was in it.
Horror royalties all over the place between Katie, between Justin as well. Like great
totally
choices.
And Katie's great. Like, I mean, I've loved her since Ginger Snaps, and obviously like Freddie Gale, and I'm so glad that she was able to come in and do it and be such a firecracker. And then also William B. Davis, like from the X-Files, kind of there for did a one-day kind of cameo and brought a lot of sort of grandeur to it, and was again a good great like a local actor.
And you turned this around reasonably quick, so a reasonably tight filming schedule as well, right? How many days was this total?
It was only 18 days of shooting, which is not much. We definitely could have used more, but like thankfully we had a very good kind of support of heads of department, like Matea Patek, who's our costume designer, and Tiana Gorin, who's our production designer, like all kind of kept very like tight control of their budgets and their departments, and kind of allowed us to do a lot, and we tried to put the money where it would do the most good, and as a result we were able to protect the story.
And I think when you've brought up the piece on design now, I think one of the toughest things we have, particularly in slasher movies, is like a really unique and memorable killer, and the silhouette you generate for the angel killer that we have there, really effective, really stood out from the moments of the trailer. Fantastic design that I think really stands the test of time. Well, we'll hopefully see that in time. But how did you approach that design process, and how they incorporate the holiday into kind of the way they were going to function as a killer?
Yeah, I mean, I always have fun making slasher characters. Like with Tragic Girls, I had fun making those like neon masks, but they're horribly impractical. Like, and a lot of like slasher characters are always very like dark, and they're always hiding in the shadows. And I wanted to do something that was kind of like or that was written in the script as this kind of white cloak, and I wanted to really use that idea. Have them hiding in snow and having them hide up against white buildings and try to use stillness. And then with that comes this idea of a very like blank expression, and we looked at a lot of things like old like angel tree toppers to kind of get a sense of it, and a lot of those have very blank faces, and so we wanted something that kind of feels like you're sort of staring at just nothing, and because there's something very creepy about that. And so we did a lot of like tests about different types of textures for the cloth, and we wanted this kind of light, like frosted light bulb like look to the face, and that had its own sort of engineering and fabrication difficulties because you couldn't really see out of it. So Cody, who's our amazing stuntman who played the angel for a lot of the scenes, was always having visibility problems, but then would rehearse things kind of and figure out ways that we could do the types of stunts that we needed to do, but then do them safely. And they were Yusuf, our stunt coordinator, did a great job kind of figuring that stuff out. And so it was a collaboration kind of all the way around. And I'm glad people have been responding to it, and it's on both posters, and it's been sort of central in the marketing, and people have been commenting on it a lot, which is really fun.
I think that's what you want, that word of mouth when people are talking. I'm talking people who maybe see these inappropriately. I'm thinking back to the slashers that I was brought into as a child. these are the things that you can describe in a playground with your friends. Like, oh, have you seen there's this film coming out and it's this killer and this is what it looks like. I think that kind of description, that kind of the inspiration that you can give for people to describe a killer. I think any film that you can describe badly and still get people excited to see it is a phenomenal achievement.
Yeah, it's I definitely grew up in a generation where like you were sold everything on the video box,
Yes.
and so you just like there's some ones that are just seared into my mind, many of which aren't even in the movie. They're just like such a great concept for a poster. They're not going to let it hold them back, like and I like the idea that our character is in the film, and we even had like some earlier versions of the poster that like didn't quite look right, like they were kind of like not quite the same mask or whatever. And was like, no, we got to like, deliver on this. And as a result, people have been really responding to it, which has been, my favorite part is when you can kind of take these things out into the world.
Amazing. And speaking of taking it out into the world, of course, that's exactly what we're doing. So November 10th, you have your global cinema releases, right?
Yeah, it's going to be in theaters, definitely in North America, November 10th, and then a number of other countries. I don't have the full list in front of me, but it's growing every day actually. So it should be in cinemas around the world in many countries, and then it'll be available on video on demand and on Shudder before Christmas.
Amazing. So fantastic. And then as people do get to see it, whether it's at home or in cinemas, hopefully the cinemas, because I think it's a good film to see with friends.
I prefer you check it out in cinemas. It's really, it'll be a fun for the whole family, but at the same time, you could also get a cup of cocoa and just, sit around with the family. And it's, it's a light horror movie. Like I do think it really welcomes the hardcore fans and also kind of people who are a little queasy about these sorts of films with a good time,
And so what would you hope, like if you were a fly on the wall or, just a guy hanging out in the cinema foyer, as you might want to do, what would make your day to hear people saying as they step out from seeing It's a Wonderful Knife?
Just like, hey, that was that was really, I think it's because I started off making very low budget films like that I benefited from tremendously low expectations. So a lot of the comments that I treasure are things like, oh man, that was better than I thought it was going to be, so but people I think have assumptions about certain things, and I think like our title, while I love it and I think it's really fun and kind of the perfect title for our film, it does bring a bit of a like a sillier kind of assumption to it. And I think if you watch the trailer, you kind of get more of a sense of what it is. But I think stepping into it, people might think it's more cute and frivolous. And I hope it actually does kind of mean something to them.
Perfect. Amazing. So just as we close up, Tyler, I'm going to give you one final horror hangout based question for you here. So we'll put you in the shoes of your brother right now. So you've got friends coming round for an evening, mixed audience, not necessarily hardcore horror fans, but they're all looking to you to choose the movie that you're going to put on. What are you choosing to put on for this audience?
Oh, I would say Peter Jackson's Dead Alive.
What a choice.
Yeah, well, because it's just bonkers. Like, even if you don't like no matter if you like it, you don't like it, it's still nuts. Like, and you're still like people even who don't like it, who wouldn't respond to that movie would still tell people about it. And the more people see that movie, the better.
Great choice. Tyler, I will let you get on to the rest of these interviews that you need to do today, but thank you so much for joining us. Where can people follow you or the movie? Where's the best place to get ahead of it?
Yeah, you can follow me at TMac Film on Twitter, or X, I guess now it's called. It's a little hard to keep track. But yeah, and you can the best way to keep in touch with it is to probably look up screenwriter Michael Kennedy on Instagram, because he is our biggest cheerleader and did such a great job producing and writing the film, and is a fountain of knowledge of what's happening with it.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So Tyler, thank you. Good luck with the launch. Everyone else listening, by the time this comes out, the film launch will be almost upon you. So get yourself out to the cinema, or if for whatever reason you can't, just wait a little longer and we can catch it whenever it is. But do support it. I was very pleased to see it early. I will be watching it again as we run up to Christmas with my friends. So can I be the first to announce, Tyler? Merry Christmas. Go on.
Hey, Merry Christmas to you too, man. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you so much. Cheers.